You're tuned in to the Foxboro BeatCast, a podcast for Patriots fans by Patriots fans. And here are your hosts, is Kaleb McChesney and Ryan Moore.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Foxboro BeatCast. I'm your host, Kaleb McChesney. Alongside me is, once again, not Ryan Moore, obviously very different than Ryan Moore, the man you see usually here. And beside me in that thumbnail, we have a very special guest today. We have my good pal, John, a.k.a. Jay Rich. Well, I don't know what we'll be calling him, probably interchangeably throughout the show. You guys obviously aren't too familiar with him, as you can see on his hat there. Big Jaguars fan, so just say you're sorry right now, and we'll move on with it. Me and John go back a good amount of years now, inconsistently, off and on, whatever. But I'll let him introduce himself because he can do it a little better than I could. So, John, the floor is yours to introduce yourself to the fine people at home.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, Caleb. Definitely look forward to being on the podcast we did today. And yes, it's been a long time. We've gone back quite some time. So look forward to talk some football. We've been doing this for years. So to have the spot on the podcast, I look forward to it.
No, for sure. A lot of this conversation stems off of a conversation we had earlier this week where there were some deep misunderstandings and deep lacks of, I don't want to say communication because we were communicating plenty. It was a lack of understanding. So hopefully this podcast, and I think we've cleared up most of it by the time we got on here.
Absolutely. We definitely did.
So if you're sitting here and expecting a bare knuckle knockout fight here, I don't think you're going to be getting that, but I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. Nevertheless, we're going to talk about we're going to take a deep dive into what's considered a poverty franchise in the NFL. Obviously, the New England Patriots hosts the number 4 overall pick. They had number 3 last year, I believe. So the conversation starts, how close are the Patriots to being one of those poverty franchises? And when you think of poverty franchises, I mean, you think of the Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans, the Oakland Raiders, or I guess now the Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers previously, and obviously, not to take a shot at your team there, but the cap you're wearing, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So be it.
So this podcast is designed to hopefully take a better aim at defining what a poverty franchise is, what it looks like, the things we look for, and then go through some of the examples in history. And then by the end of this first block here, we'll go into tiering them and where all these teams end up. I would apologize in advance, but I don't think we're going to feel bad about where we rank some of these teams. So if you're a fan of one of the teams we put near the bottom, I'm sorry. You should just consider being a fan of somebody else if you don't want to cheer for poverty teams. Not everybody's built for the trenches as you are, John.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll get into some more broad NFL topics. We'll talk about the playoffs. We're about to start here on Saturday. And we'll go from there. So, John, the first point of conversation here that I have written down here is we need to establish what is a poverty franchise. What's the definition? What are the parameters and things we look for? I understand that you took notes and some ideas of what you think. So let's get it all out.
I did, and honestly, like when you took shots at my team and called us a poverty franchise, I took it to heart because I'm a diehard Jaguar fan. But I had to come to terms like we are a poverty franchise, as much as that hurts. So what I did is I actually Googled what a poverty franchise is. So
good start of finding what things mean.
Yes. So basically, it's a team that is experiencing moral and issues on and off the court or field. The term can be misleading because it's often assumed to mean a team is broke in terms of talent, draft capital, or cap space. However, these factors are only part of the equation. Other factors that contribute to a team's championship relevance includes the competence of the front office, the coaching staff, and the star power on the field. Many franchises balances front office scandals with superstar talents, and the line between poverty and purgatory and often razor thin. So when I look at my franchise, the Jacksonville Jaguars,
a lot of that,
really. A lot of that definitely hits home in regards to we talk about the coaching staff. Like we made a lot of questionable decisions. I mean, since of our existence. Shad Khan took over the Jaguars back in 2012. He bought it from Wayne Weaver. Wayne Weaver, the previous owner, wanted to keep the team in Jacksonville. So far as Shad Khan, and not to prolong the conversation about the Jaguars, but Shad Khan is a billionaire. He has his hands in a lot of stuff. So I definitely appreciate what he's done for the city, especially, upcoming Jacksonville has a renovation to the stadium in 2028. So a lot of great things in regards to keeping the team actually in Jacksonville. But his football knowledge is probably not the best because of some of the decisions he made, which is, one of the decisions he just made recently by keeping Trent Baalke. And it's not going good with a lot of Jaguar fans. A lot of Jaguar fans are upset about that move.
And again, he's horrible.
Oh, for sure. So when we think about the coaching staff, just some of the decisions he's made, and that is one of the parts of the poverty franchise. But also we talk about a winning culture. Jacksonville hasn't had a winning culture since our existence since '95. So when Shad Khan took over the team in 2012, his record is 64 wins and 148 losses. That's not a winning culture.
I didn't even know it was that bad.
It's pretty bad. 3 winning seasons. Now we've had flashes of maybe we're going somewhere. The Doug Peterson hiring. He gave us 2 back-to-back winning seasons, 9 and 8. But as you see, our season ended in a 4 and whatever record. I'm done with this past season. But anyhow, it's all about a winning culture.
For comparison's sake, would you like to hear the Patriots record since 2012?
Go ahead. I want to hear.
131 to 81.
Sheesh. Must be nice.
Only 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 losing seasons in comparison to only your 3 winning seasons.
I envy you. I envy you. I don't know that feeling. So it's been pretty tough. So
listen, I want to give the Jaguars a whole bunch of credit in some certain respects. I mean, they've been to the AFC title game 2 or 3 times.
Oh, for sure.
In my memory, 1997 against us with Parcells and Bledsoe.
Yep.
In 07, 08, did you get to or were you the divisional round against us?
Divisional round. We went to the AFC Championship back in '99. So we lost to
there was even one that I didn't know about.
Yeah, so we lost to the Tennessee Titans. Steve McNair glory days. That's the Super Bowl that Kurt Warner when the Rams beat the Titans. So we went in '99 and we went back to the AFC Championship in the 2018 season.
Yeah.
So we actually do pretty decent in the playoffs, but again, a winning culture hasn't been established in Jacksonville. So that's how we can be considered as a poverty franchise. But what hurts us more, we talked about the coaching staff, we talked about the winning culture, but we're also a small market as well. So that doesn't help us as well. So again, I had to come to terms after having that heated discussion with you early this week is we are a poverty franchise.
Listen, and my delivery wasn't soft. It was very harsh. It was very brash. Like I didn't take a lot of feelings into consideration. It's the blunt Northeastern thing. I'm just going to come out and say whatever. And hopefully I don't catch too much heat for it. I was very inconsiderate about the feelings involved. But, with sports, it's very much just, for me, a lot of it is black and white.
Yes.
And I definitely peeled the Band-Aid off a little hard there, took off some skin. But when you talk about the Jaguars specifically, I mean, what other team would do something as silly as hire Urban Meyer? That's like the biggest, like if I'm going to point to one example, like that is your thing. That is the kind of paper bag you have to wear over your head that we hired Urban Meyer. And as for the Raiders, it's hiring Mike Mayock and John Gruden the second time around and trading for Antonio Brown with how well that went. And we'll get into some other things down the line here as we talk about more team-specific things. But I think you hit the nail on the head on a lot of things as it pertains to how we define things like that. When you talked about, obviously, a lot of turmoil inside and outside the building, a lot of off-the-field distractions and issues. The lack of culture is a big one.
Absolutely.
And then, obviously, the team factors of you can't manage a cap. You're dead broke. You're always in relocation discussions, which with the Jaguars, it might not be a thing anymore, but it certainly was for the better part of a decade. Well, oh, is Shad Khan going to move him to London? He has them playing in London 2 or 3 times a year, things like that. So I think that you did a good job of defining that, and those are the parameters we'll kind of be basing our discussion around when we go team by team eventually by the end of this, and we get a better definition of, or a better idea of, okay, who are the great franchises and who are the really bad ones. And when we're talking about the Patriots, I'm going to be a harsh grader as I was. I mean, those 20 years with Brady, you're the top of the top, sure. But
for sure.
Before Parcells, before the Kraft ownership, and then after the Brady Belichick exodus, Patriots are riding a very fine line.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that for sure. So outside of the Jaguars and the Patriots, or even outside of the NFL, if you can think of some, again, I know you have notes written down. What are some of the big examples of poverty franchises that you came up with?
Just to go back to the definition as far as just like a winning culture. You have a team like Cleveland. Cleveland Browns is known for losing. They haven't been to the playoffs.
15 and 0-16 in back-to-back years.
There you go. Jackson. I grew up. I've been a Jacksonville Jaguar fan for day one, but my grandfather was a Cleveland Browns fan, so I literally watched the Cleveland Browns lose for most of my life.
You guys, you and your granddad, you guys just chose not to enjoy winning teams.
But listen, I watched Cleveland Browns just always lose. My grandfather would yell at the TV about how sorry Cleveland is, and just they are known to have a losing culture. They've been through so many different quarterbacks. They have never been taken serious, and they've had flashes like Cleveland the last couple of years. You feel like they're getting over that hump, but boom, they spent all that money on Deshaun Watson, and you watch how that backfired in their face. So
again, I wasn't the biggest Baker Mayfield guy. Like, I was not a fan of his by any means. And I thought that they were right to look for an upgrade. Yep. What they did was bad.
Exactly.
And
that's
Stefanski,
the thing.
I still believe is a really good head coach. I really think that their GM, I forget the GM's name up there in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
But I think their GM has done a very good job as far as identifying talent. I think that this is 100% Andrew Berry is the Cleveland Browns general manager. I think that their owner is really the problem there with Jimmy Haslam. He is forcing them to stick by Watson and stick by this. How many millions of dollars did he get guaranteed? Like, it's unbelievable.
Up there. I know his overall contract was like 200 something million. I don't know how much the
$230 million. Yeah,
that's insane.
And it's fully guaranteed. It's fully guaranteed.
And I feel like a lot of those owners, their pride is so much in a way because, like, even this past season, we're staying with Deshaun Watson. He was playing horrible. He did get his win against the Jaguars, but other than that, like, he was playing horrible. Like, go with Jameis Winston or DTR because Deshaun Watson is not the same Deshaun Watson we saw in Houston. So so. They wanted to play him, and then he gets injured, and then now they have one of the worst records in the league as well. So
number 2 overall pick, I believe they have in the draft.
Number 2, yeah.
And I'd probably say their average draft pick, like if you were going to take like their average positioning year by year, it would come out to probably in the top 10, in the top 5, probably
for sure. They hit a home run with Myles Garrett. They hit a home run with him.
Yeah, I think that was the year after their 0-16 year.
Yes. But you couldn't go wrong with the talent from Myles Garrett. David Njoku, he's been a very solid tight end.
Late bloomer too. I was huge on him coming out of the draft. I was fighting tooth and nail with people who were like, "Oh, OJ Howard's better," or the other guy. It might have been Gesicki in that class.
Yes.
And I'm like, no. David Njoku's a beast.
But one of the things, we talked about a winning culture that is part of the ingredients for a poverty franchise. But one of the things that I also failed to mention is the fan base. Like you have teams like Dallas. Dallas has been. They haven't really been the best team since their championship. But what makes them American team? And much as I hate to say that, what makes them America's team?
They have the largest fan base in the.
They have the largest fan base, and as much as people don't like Jerry Jones, he puts money into his team. I had the opportunity to travel to Dallas this past September, and I was just blown away when I went to the stadium. Like, just driving by the stadium, it was so much to do outside the stadium. You talking about bars, casinos, just so much things to do. And I'm just like, wow, being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. And again, I have to go back to Jacksonville because around our stadium, there's nothing. I mean, there's a couple shops here and there, but I went to the last Jaguars game I went to was against it was back in 2023 when we played the Tennessee Titans to get into the playoffs. And I remember talking to some Tennessee Titan fans, and they were like, What is there to do in Jacksonville? Like, we're looking for stuff to do." And I'm just like, "Damn, that's crazy," because we're not known for a nightlife. We're not like Miami.
Tennessee, we're gonna get to. Nashville is awesome.
Nashville is. I also had the privilege to travel to Nashville this past October.
It's on my bucket list. I want to go to there.
I'm walking on Broadway. There's so many bars, restaurants. I'm just so blown away, and I'm just like, wow, fans have things to do before the game start. And when I look at Jacksonville, I'm like, what is there to do in Jacksonville before the game? And I'm not trying to trash my city. I love my city. And I so look forward to us building a new stadium because I know Shad Khan is going to invest in things downtown.
I thought it was just renovations.
What's that?
Is it a new stadium? I thought it was just reservations.
It's renovations, but there are going to be things built around downtown. There's like projects that he's working on as well, and we need that. So again, all of these are ingredients to a poverty franchise. So having the ability to travel to these cities and see like a lot of things that they have for the fans, you get to see like what the fans have to look forward to.
No, for sure. Foxboro with the Patriots, it was a little different because the Patriots weren't Boston, and they still aren't Boston. They don't play. Right. They played in Fenway Park like when my grandpa was a kid, and my grandpa is a Maryland native. He was watching the over the hill Washington Redskins back in like the 60s and 50s and whatnot. And Robert Kraft has put so much money down there into Gillette Stadium down there and what they call Patriot Place with all of the different restaurants and stuff. It's not quite as big as, you leave Miami and you're right next to Hard Rock Cafe and stuff, or Nashville. Obviously, I don't know how far Nissan Stadium, or I don't even know if it's Nissan Stadium anymore.
It's literally a strip of bars and restaurants, and the stadium is right there, so you can walk to the stadium from Broadway in Nashville.
And another example, Philadelphia. You leave Philadelphia. I watched. This is going to sound like the whitest thing ever. I promise you, I'm not a lacrosse fan by any means. But I had the opportunity to go to the college lacrosse championships, and they played them right in Lincoln Financial Field. I got to sit in a box in Lincoln Financial Field.
Nice.
And then you leave that stadium, and there's just stuff to do.
Yeah.
You're not that far from downtown. It's a quick Uber drive of maybe 15 minutes.
Yep.
And obviously they have the spots right there. You have the Wells Fargo Arena where the Flyers and the Sixers play. Right next door, you have the Phillies Park. Right next door, it's
Citizen Bank.
Yeah. No.
And then they have Xfinity Live where they have these huge jumbo screens where you can watch the game and have bars. And again, it caters to the fans. And I like the fact that you have, like you said, Wells Fargo, Lincoln Financial, Citizen Bank Park, all in one area. And then you have the casino, and then you have all these things to accommodate to the fans. And that's what a lot of owners need to do. Well, not necessarily owners, but, just to have those things for the fans.
No, for sure. And that definitely plays a role. But some teams have that, and they still can't get out of their own way, like the Las Vegas Raiders. They have a brand new stadium. Everybody loves that stadium. You're right on the strip on Vegas, and you still have no idea what you're doing if you're Mark Davis. They just fired their coach and GM the
today.
Last 2 days.
Yeah, they fired their GM today. So I guess this is a question for you. Like, what would make the Raiders a poverty franchise when you have Las Vegas, you have Sin City? There's so much to do in Vegas. You can't go wrong in Vegas in regards to the things that there's things to do in Las Vegas or whatever. So what makes them a poverty franchise?
That would go right directly with the football decisions that they make. just in the last couple years, and we can go back. Like I'm gonna cut myself off at the Gruden thing in 2019. Gruden and Mayock, they had both been out of football for so long, like being involved in football. Obviously, Gruden was a commentator. Mayock was on the NFL Network, I believe, and he was on the draft shows and all that. They were media people at that point, and they got blown out because they couldn't win, and Gruden's emails got leaked about him just being the worst person and he got booted out. And then you go to that. Did they go right to Josh McDaniels after that? No,
I
there was
believe
something
so.
in between. There was something in between McDaniels and Gruden.
They may have had an interim coach before they brought in McDaniel.
Because McDaniels came in 2022.
Yeah,
And I think Gruden was fired in 20.
I
I need
believe
to just
so.
have Pro Football Reference up this whole time because I'm going to be like looking up different teams and the stupid things they've done. Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to 2021. Who was their coach then? Was it the special teams coordinator?
Yeah, I feel like it was.
Oh yeah, Rich Bisas. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Biscaccia.
I don't even know.
Yeah, he was a special teams coordinator. He got promoted, and then he went to I think he spent time. Yeah, he's with the Packers. Yeah, he's their special teams assistant head coach. Oh yeah, okay. So they fired Gruden, and then McDaniels came in 6-11. Hiring Josh McDaniels in 2022. Yeah, and obviously he had the big PR piece about how he was going to learn from the mistakes he made in Denver, build upon the things he learned in the second time in New England. He obviously did none of that. He started a feud with his quarterback as soon as he got there and ran him out of town.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
The
crazy.
franchise's greatest quarterback, by the way. I'm willing to step on that take. Derek Carr is the best quarterback in Raiders history, and it's not particularly close.
Over Gannon?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel really good about that.
I feel good about that as well.
But I might be biased. I have a Derek Carr jersey in here.
I
I got the Raiders Jimmy G jersey too.
bet. That's your boy.
But yeah, 6-11 and then 3-5. Josh McDaniels and David, what was his name? I forget the GM's name. David something. He used to work with the Patriots. Hiring these Patriot retreads, the Mark Davis. They've been doing things like that my entire life.
Absolutely.
Since Gruden was traded out to Tampa the first time, the year I was born, 2002. And they just haven't been able to get out of their own way. So, and obviously moving to Vegas was a net positive. I mean, now Davis is probably rolling in money.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say that was probably one of the biggest things they did. Yeah.
Oakland Coliseum is no longer a home to anybody anymore. The Oakland Athletics have now booted out of town. Another poverty organization in a different sport. And yeah, the Raiders just can't get it out of their own way. So despite having the giant fan base, it's a national fan base right there. Like the Raiders are iconic. The iconic trademarks, the iconic brand of the Raiders. And they still can't manage to go over 500 for more than 1 year.
So basically, again, when we talk about the ingredients for a poverty franchise, it's the winning culture when it comes to Raiders. Because like you said, the Raiders are iconic. You see, I mean, we could go way back to NWA, the rap group. They had Raider hats on, fitted caps or whatever. So the Raiders have been so iconic to California and to a lot of, hip hop. You can even break into music
to LA instead of the Raiders.
Right.
Such a good fit.
The crazy thing is I've been to Vegas so many times that I'm about to start losing count. But when I go to Vegas, when you go to the airport, you see Raiders everywhere. So it's not so they have the fan base, and I'm like, wow, this city really loved their team.
Maybe in the NFL.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was really surprised, not to think that I wasn't going to see Raiders stuff, but I'm just seeing Raiders everything all across Vegas or whatever. So I was like, okay, they really represent. And I know they're happy to have their team or whatever, but it's not the fan base, it's the culture, it's the winning culture, and they've been consistently known for losing and just the Davis making horrible coaching decisions
and personnel decisions. As now Tom Telesco is fired after 1 year,
for sure,
and now they have Tom Brady involved, and I'm a big Tom Brady guy. Despite what this podcast might think, I've been very critical of Tom in his post-football career. I think he's horrible on TV. I don't see it working. I feel like Tom's just going to hire his buddies.
I mean, I think a lot of these players, they look at Vegas as like a cash grab because it's
Oh,
so
it is. Players
lucrative.
will come there to get paid. They're just
Oh,
not going to keep playing
absolutely,
to win.
absolutely. I mean, when you think about Vegas, so I mean, I don't know if it's rumor, but the Oakland A's are supposed to be moving to Vegas,
No,
right?
I don't know if they're moving to Vegas or not. I know they're
Oh,
not in Oakland anymore. Like that stadium is home to nobody.
on the Vegas Strip, they just tore down one of the biggest casinos in Tropicana. So it's rumored that it could be possibly the new home of the A's.
Yeah.
And
Right now they're going to be playing in Sacramento,
oh, okay,
and
okay,
yeah, they're going to have a permanent move to Las Vegas. I don't know when.
okay. And
When's that supposed to happen?
somewhere down the line, NBA, the NBA is going to want another team. I mean, Vegas has to be the first city you talk about moving to or whatever. So, it's a lucrative uh move to put any team in Vegas and just everything that's in
The
Vegas.
hockey
So
team's working pretty good over there. I mean, the Vegas Golden
exactly,
Knights, they went to the Stanley Cup in their first year over there,
that's what I'm saying. So
and they've won one since.
you can't go wrong with the fan base. You have all the tourists. It's the culture. It's the culture that you got to build there or whatever. The possibilities are endless. I mean, who knows? Brady being a minority owner, he might be able to bring some of his winning culture to Vegas. We'll see.
So that's one example of a team who has everything still falling on their face and being a at least borderline poverty franchise. I know that they have a
Right.
Super Bowl in their history, so maybe I'm not allowed to call them poverty, but they're the next tier up. They're not that far.
So let me just ask you this real quick.
Okay.
We're obviously we're on the topic about poverty franchises. So what about St. Louis? Like what caused? I mean, we know what caused St. Louis to move to LA, but did they get to a point where they were a poverty franchise where they had to move to LA, or like what how do you define that move?
So that move is certainly odd. I just don't think that there was enough money in St. Louis anymore. And that owner, I think it's Kroenke, Stan Kroenke, the Kroenke family.
Yeah.
They are assholes. They do not care about their fans. They will move to where the money is. And the Rams had obviously had some bad years down there in St. Louis after the best show on turf, greatest show on turf. Excuse me. I don't want to piss off the Rams fans in the chat. And yeah, so right after that, and then right as they got Jared Goff, things had become. They hired Sean McVay. And I think they had a year of McVay in St. Louis, and then they shipped them out to LA. So I wouldn't classify them as a poverty franchise. I think that they won so much early on in their history. They obviously had the run with the greatest show on turf with Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner. Was it Isaac Bruce that was the receiver?
Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt. I was thinking of Torrey Holt, but I'm glad I said Isaac Bruce anyway. Orlando Brown Sr., the first one. I think he was playing tackle for him.
Orlando Pace.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously they moved into LA and they are a factor in the playoffs every single year. They get a Super Bowl. So I don't know if I'd classify the Rams moving out of St. Louis as the poverty thing. I think that the time had just run out and LA was just so much better of a market for him. And the Kroenke said, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, and I mean, I do know the owner didn't want to put money into the stadium because they asked to
That
renovate
was
the
certainly
stadium.
a part of it.
Absolutely, he didn't want to put money into it, so they was like, "All right, well, we will move to LA, where we originally came from." So,
Yeah, they probably wanted a new stadium over there, and St. Louis was like, "No, we're not paying for that."
and that is so crazy. I know the Super Bowl win was back in what, 99. So I don't even know the year that they moved, but it wasn't over.
2017.
It was 2017.
That they moved from St. Louis to LA.
I want to say it was before then. I can't.
I'll take a look. I want to say it was 2017.
I feel like it was before then. And we have to look that one up.
So from St. Louis, right? From St. Louis to LA, right?
Yep.
They 2016. Okay, so I was
2016. Okay. So
good
I mean,
ballpark.
all right. At that point, the championship was, I mean, over 10 years, but they didn't want to put money. And St. Louis is a bigger market than Jacksonville, so the owner didn't want to put money into the
Cardinals
stadium.
and the Blues do pretty well for their counterparts.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I mean, the Blues beat us in the Stanley Cup final. I'm still not over that.
I'm still not over the Jags losing to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. That
You
hurt
want to
my
hash
heart.
it out right now?
I had to bring that up because you talking about something hurts. That's to this day, I don't even think I watched. Like I watch a lot of highlights. I don't think I watched the highlights of that game. I'll probably see clips of Miles Jack, the play where he
Yeah, Jack wasn't
wasn't
down.
down.
Yeah.
That would have been a game right there. So yeah, that hurts me to this day. We should have been in the Super Bowl.
Listen, you probably would have got ran on by the Eagles just like we did. It took a miracle from Tom Brady just to stay in that game. Our defense couldn't stop anybody.
Oh man, you talk
Brady
about
throws for 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, doesn't punt once, and you still lose.
you, my friend, got to witness your team win the Super Bowl multiple times. I just
Three
need
times.
3 times. I just want one. That was the closest. That was the closest that I got. The fourth quarter, we were up, and I was like, once we got that Miles Jack touchdown and call, and then I think we went 3 and out. I was like, shit, it's Brady time.
Well, you want to live
just
react
felt
to those
it.
highlights right now? I could pull them up.
No, please don't. But the Patriot has owned us since our existence. So yeah, that was a tough one. And the only get back, it's not necessarily a get back. We played y'all the next season and we beat y'all in Jacksonville. It felt good.
I remember that. I endless chirping from you to 16-year-old me. Yeah.
One of the best catches in Jaguar history. I forgot the name of the receiver. He caught like this crazy pass and
probably Cecil Shorts or something.
No, it wasn't Cecil Shorts. I forgot the name of the receiver, but it felt good. But it definitely doesn't make up for losing in the AFC Championship.
Especially
we haven't been
we
back
just won the
since.
Super Bowl later that year anyway. It was you, the Lions. Somebody else beat us that year early on. That was stupid. And they went on to not make the playoffs, and then we just go win the Super Bowl.
Y'all won the Super Bowl that year?
We won the Super Bowl that year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
beat the Rams 13-3 in Atlanta.
That's right.
I can't even remember the final score of that Jaguars game. I know we lost. I know it was miserable, but I can't even remember it.
I watched that game in New York City with my best friend in Times Square, and I remember not looking at the TV. I couldn't watch, and we had the ball, and Blake Bortles threw the pass to someone out. I forgot who the safety was that y'all had at the time, but he backed the pass down. I could hear it.
McCourty or Harmon or
I believe so. I remember just walking out of that. I actually watching the NFL experience, and I remember walking out of there just like people was patting me on the back. Hey, maybe next year. No, there's no next year.
Oh, the AFC title game. Okay. Oh, you're thinking of the Gilmore play. I thought you were talking about 2018.
Gilmore. There you go. Yeah. Stephon Gilmore. Yep.
And he had been really bad that year too. And it was just a really hard kind of getting used to a new place, a new system. And but he made his career with that play.
Oh, for sure. And I also felt good about that game because we knocked Gronk out the game too early. I was like, Gronk is going, he's out the game. I was like,
yeah, Jalen Ramsey made an enemy for life out of me in that game. He plays in Miami and he's kind of washed up.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, did I have something else, or are we just gonna?
Yeah, sorry to get off topic. We will still talk about poverty franchises.
Hey, speaking of it, we're gonna go to our tier list right now. Actually,
okay,
it's that time of the show. Tier list. All right, you can see that pretty good.
Yep,
beautiful. Look at that, perfect setup. So what we have here is our tier list, top to bottom. The top is going to be the great franchises, the good franchises, in the middle, the solid franchises, the bad ones, the really bad ones. And since we already went over it, I'll just use them for an example, the Raiders. And then the poverty franchises at the bottom. So we're going to run through these teams. We're going to talk about it. And we'll go from there. So let's just start alphabetically with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I have a very soft spot for Arizona teams. My mom lived out there for several years. I was a big fan of Larry Fitzgerald. The Suns are my favorite basketball team because I can't stand the Celtics. Big Steve Nash, Devin Booker, super fanboy over here. The Coyotes moved to Utah, and my heart still hurts for that. And the D-backs, really solid baseball team. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals here. I have them as a bad franchise. They've been to one Super Bowl in their lifetime. They've only had like one or two deep playoff runs. I think of 2015 with Carson Palmer, they lost to the Panthers. They had one and done with Kyler Murray.
Mm.
Arizona Cardinals.
Went to the Super Bowl back in what,
Yep,
2009
they went to the Super Bowl one time.
with that was with
Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner, yeah. That's
So
the James Harrison touchdown Super Bowl.
I can actually count how many times the Cardinals have been in the playoffs since 1947. 1,
How many?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 times since 1947.
Sheesh.
Michael Bidwell is an awful owner. He's very uninvolved. He likes to fly his planes around, and he's very irrational. He fires GMs after quick instances, and the Cardinals just kind of have a losing culture. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald was a pillar for them for such a long time. But since then, you have incidences like Michael Floyd with the DUI in 2016.
I forgot about
Kyler
that.
Murray and Cliff Kingsbury with that stupid study clause where he's playing too many video games. It's things like that where they're a bad franchise, but I don't know if they're relevant enough to be really bad. Like, they don't make the news too often. They stayed loyal in Arizona for such a long time.
I won't put them in really bad.
As other teams have left. Do you have any thoughts on the Cardinals?
I mean, honestly, when you first brought them up, I was thinking maybe like a solid franchise, but just I think you touched on some really good topics in regards to getting them to a bad franchise. They've been around longer than I thought. You said 47?
Yeah, they might have been playing in St. Louis or something at the time, or Chicago. Yeah, they were the Chicago Cardinals back in 1947.
I mean, if we're doing 32 teams and just, I mean, you're bringing that up. I mean,
and
bad
then they were in
franchise.
St. Louis in the 70s.
Yeah.
When they moved to Arizona.
Shoot, I don't know. I gotta look that one up.
Moved to Arizona, 1988.
So we can go bad franchise.
They just haven't won enough. And they did the Josh Rosen thing, which was bad.
Yeah.
Up next, the Atlanta Falcons. I want to put them in solid. I don't think they're good.
I was thinking solid.
They have a great brand, number one. Number two, they've stayed in Atlanta for such a long time. They've been a pretty consistent franchise. I mean, they choke all the big games away. That's kind of their trademark. But I don't think that makes you a bad franchise.
28-3.
Love that number so much. Julio Jones, Mike Vick, Matt Ryan, some of the big names that they've had throughout history. Julio
Jamal Anderson, Morton Anderson, the kicker. Roddy White.
I think of that white receiver from back in the day. I think he played with Vic. I can't remember, but the end of Tony Gonzalez he had there.
Oh yeah, I forgot he played for Atlanta.
Grady Jarrett now, AJ Terrell. They have a lot of good players. I think they have a solid culture. They don't run through coaches like every year. Arthur Blank is a solid owner.
He is. He invests a lot into
the survivor as well.
Awesome.
I don't think I have anything bad to say about the Falcons. They're solid.
We could go solid. Definitely go solid franchise for them.
The Ravens, they're relatively young. I'm going to put them in great already.
You put them in great?
I do. They have 2 Super Bowls. They don't fire coaches all that often. Legends on all sides of the ball with Terrell Suggs, Ray Lewis. He might not be an NFL Hall of Famer or anything like that, but Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson's already an NFL Hall of Famer by a lot of people. Steve Smith at the end of his career. Mark Andrews right now. Marshall Yanda on the offensive line. I have a lot of good things to say about the Ravens. John Harbaugh is an amazing coach.
Amazing coach.
A lot of these AFC North teams, they don't. What about what?
What about their fan base? How do you feel about the Ravens
fan base is solid. I know a lot of Ravens fans. They're some of the best people that I know. We have one guest who comes on fairly often. We call him Football Guy Ken, and he comes on here. He talks to us about prospects and whatnot. Ravens fan, love him to death. Where I got my start with this multimedia stuff. My buddy Miles from Live from the Hammock, Ravens fan, love him to death. Taught me a lot of things that I know now. Nothing bad to say about the Ravens fan base at all. They have a winning culture. Most of the time, they're winning more than they're losing. They're consistent playoff threat.
For sure.
They have 2 Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowls. and they've been in the league the shorter time frame than Jacksonville.
95?
No, they came. I want to say they came over in 2000, 99, 2000.
96.
It was 96.
Yeah, because
Oh
remember
wow,
Belichick got fired when they were moving
you're
to
right.
moving Cleveland over there.
I always associate their team with when they won their Super Bowl.
It was very quick afterwards.
Right.
So 96. 96, and they had 2 Super Bowls.
Okay, we could do great. I'm cool with that. No argument for me.
The Bills, I feel good. They're not really. I mean, early on, I felt like they were embarrassing to say the least. But they made 4 Super Bowls in a row, and sure they lost them all, but they made 4. Sure, between the late 90s and when Brady came in, they weren't particularly relevant. They ran through a lot of coaches, a lot of quarterbacks, which is something that I take a lot into account. Like, how often are you running through people in your organization, coaches, GMs, quarterbacks, obviously. But the Bills, they just feel steady. I mean, they were largely irrelevant for the better part of 20 years when Brady and Belichick are running the division, but they're right back at it. They're a consistent Super Bowl threat. If they had a Super Bowl win, I might feel good about putting them in great, but they don't have it yet. Come back and revisit this if they win it in February, and maybe we bump them up. But I feel pretty good about them and good. They have a great fan base. You don't see a lot of their players in the news for doing stupid crap. It's mostly their fans like jumping through tables and stuff that you see. And we'll obviously leave OJ aside. At least OJ got to retire before he became a murderer. So I'll put them in good.
So far we on the same page because I was thinking good as well. I pretty much feel the same. And my best friends from Buffalo, I actually was at the Monday night game this past season in September, and they love their team in Buffalo. You could go to your local stores, you see Buffalo stuff everywhere in the airport, and I'm like, this team really loves their team, and they represent. And they've been through hell going to 3 straight. Was it 3 or 4?
4.
4 straight Super Bowls that they lost. Like, and there was also talks about them possibly moving at one point or whatever, but Buffalo has been doing pretty well the last few seasons, and they represent their team. And this could possibly be their year. And the crazy thing about Buffalo, they lost a lot of solid pieces this offseason. So
this was supposed to be a retooling year, yeah.
Absolutely. And it was like, what weapons does Josh Allen have on offense? And I mean, that goes to show how great of a quarterback he is. But anyhow, good franchise. I'm all for it.
I'm right there with you. We'll talk about the Bills later as far as their playoff threat and how we feel about them going to the Super Bowl. But the Carolina Panthers, this is going to be our first poverty franchise, I think.
Yeah. So they came in. They came in with the Jaguars, and I don't really know a lot about their fan base. My brother is a Panthers fan, but they have been consistent with losing as well. Although they did make it to the Super Bowl before, but
they made it twice.
They made it. They made it twice. They made it twice.
We beat them for our second one, and they made it with Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Steve Smith Sr., Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, a lot of legends for Carolina, but they've only had 2 great seasons, and obviously their ownership was horrible. Right, they're horrible right now with what's his name, the Panthers owner right now. I hear his name so often. David Tepper.
Okay.
And the guy before, who was the Panthers owner before that? Jerry Richardson.
Yep.
Sexual assault guy. Like,
oh shit, shoot.
He might be dead now. Yeah, he died last year, but he got thrown out of the league for like sexual assault or sexual harassment or something. Like,
but so I guess my question is, what makes them? When we talk about the winning culture, but what else makes them a poverty franchise?
They run through quarterbacks and coaches like no tomorrow over there. I mean, just think of the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold experiment, Matt Rule, Frank Reich. They were steady with Cam Newton and Ron Rivera, but there's not enough steadiness there. They constantly are just tripping over themselves. And obviously the Jerry Richardson thing is a huge mark of demarcation for them.
Do they have any Hall of Famers?
Unless Steve Smith went or Thomas Davis.
Julius Peppers.
Julius Peppers, yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
So they have a couple for sure. Okay, so I have the list. Kevin Green, Reggie White, who I don't think Reggie White played there very long. Donnie Shell, Mike McCormick, and Bill Polian.
Mm.
And I imagine that that Luke Kuechly is going to get in there this year.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, they're constantly tripping over themselves. They're constantly at the bottom, outside of Cam Newton and that one fluky Jake Delhomme. So I got them as a poverty franchise, and I feel pretty good about that.
And to be honest, I know I fit into this category, but I don't know a lot of Panther fans. Besides my brother, you don't see Panthers fan all the time. And it's so crazy. People get the Jaguars mixed up with the Panthers all the time. Like people will text me like, "Oh, how do you feel about the loss?" I was like, "No, that was the Panthers, not the Jaguars."
I mean, listen, it could apply to both of you at any point in the season.
Yeah, but the thing I think about with the Panthers is they're a bigger market because they play out of Charlotte. So I know their nightlife for their fans is way more lucrative than it is in Jacksonville. So I don't really know much about their fan base. I know they have
I know a
every
couple.
team
Two
has
of them
their
are the
own
nicest
chant.
people I know. One of them is the weirdest person that I know.
All I know is keep pounding. That's pretty much I know about their fan base. But I don't really know a lot of Panthers fans.
And a lot of them don't even show up to the stadium by the time it's game time.
I know they're out there. I know they're out there, but again, they kind of fall in line with my team or whatever when you think about just a newer team and people and it's so sad because a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't even know that was an NFL team. I hear that about the Jaguars all the time as well. I'm like, we've been a team since
That's
'95.
certainly
Damn
a
it.
part of it. They do not have any notoriety with the Jaguars.
Yeah.
No, I'll just save you the heartbreak.
Oh man, that hurts my
now.
heart.
I'll,
We're not gonna be here for long. Listen, you could put us in the poverty franchise, but we gonna turn around, and we're not this topic is not gonna be for long. But Jacksonville is gonna move up.
You're an optimistic guy, aren't you?
I'm trying to be.
The Chicago Bears. They do have the Super Bowl, one of the most dominant defenses ever in 1985. I still feel like they're between bad and really bad.
I want to go bad franchise because they've made a lot of bad decisions in the past. I know you can't base this one decision off of them being a bad franchise, but the firing of Lovie Smith, like that
Shady as
alone,
hell.
very shady. I mean, Chicago has a huge fan base, the Bears. Their fan base is huge. So
top tier market in Chicago.
Absolutely. So I think it's more of their culture.
I think it's their ownership.
Ownership as well.
The McCaskey family. It's a mom and pop shop over there with the Bears. Their organizational like build is super out of whack. Like they have a guy who is the guy that the GMs and the coaches report to. Like the GM does not have a straight shot to the owner. Martha McCaskey or whatever the hell her name is. She has no idea what she's doing at all. And keeping Eberflus after last year, after having the number one pick and letting him get anywhere near Caleb Williams was a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Did Ryan Poles get canned? Do you know the Bears GM?
I'm not 100% sure, but I have an interesting fact about Chicago. They've never had a 4,000-yard quarterback passer.
It's true.
And I just had to look up. I had to look up Caleb Williams' stats. I'm like, I think he didn't get 4,000 passing yards. So that's
in the era where getting 4,000 is relatively easy.
Relatively easy, and that is a crazy stat to me for some reason. They never had a 4,000-yard quarterback.
They've interviewed Pete Carroll today, the Bears.
Oh wow, that would be I think that'll be a good look for him.
I think that Mike McCarthy would have been a really good fit for him if the Cowboys didn't say absolutely not.
Oh, Dallas, they didn't let it go through.
They rejected it. So that probably means he's staying in Dallas.
I think Pete Carroll in Chicago. Pete Carroll, I've always been a fan of Pete Carroll. I think he would be a good fit for Chicago and Caleb Williams, and just the culture that he would bring for them. So, I mean, maybe that'll work out for him.
I hope it does because Caleb Williams is rotting over there right now. They have such a great offensive sect of talent. Defensively, there's still a little to be desired. But I don't think they're in all that bad of a shape as a roster. They just need to get somebody who has a clue, and those owners don't. And they haven't in a long, long time. So, yeah, I'm with you. Bad.
All right.
The Bengals. It's really bad or poverty.
Really?
It is. They have two runs to the Super Bowl. One where they lost to Joe Montana in the 80s, and they had the one run with Joe Burrow. They are largely irrelevant year to year. They are cheap as hell. They don't pay their players very often. Like, you're going to lose T. Higgins or Jamar Chase because they just don't want to pay, and they never wanted to pay. One of the more frugal stand-back franchises. They kept Marvin Lewis for too long. They're very conservative.
Oh my God, I forgot about Marvin Lewis. He was their coach for like what, 2 decades?
Seriously, what kind of dirt did he have on the Brown
Oh
family?
my God.
But
I wouldn't put them in
conservative. They're very conservative. They're very hands off. They're very patient, and sometimes that comes at the detriment of the football program. So I'm feeling really bad.
I would go really bad. I don't look at them as a poverty franchise. So yeah, I would go really bad. I think they could possibly move up, maybe like 5 years down the line or something. But
no, they didn't make most of this Joe Burrow window. But do you trust them to?
Joe Burrow's not going anywhere. I know that
they have to make the most of this window. That's what I mean. Like, now he's getting paid. Like, this is an issue. You need to win like in the next couple of years, or you're gonna be in the same situation that the Saints were with Drew Brees at the end.
So you pay Jamar Chase, you don't let T. Higgins walk, and you give him an offensive line. Like, Joe Burrow is always their offensive line has been horrible for the last 3 years. He's always getting sacked. Joe Burrow is a beast, so you need to protect him at all costs.
For 3 years, and the Bengals have done nothing to address it.
Yep.
So do you trust them to make the most of this Joe Burrow window while they have the elite quarterback?
I don't know. That's a hard one.
That's why they're in really bad. That's why they're in really bad.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns next.
Do
we need to go over it? I mean, they've relocated twice.
We already touched on it, so yeah, they stay right at the poverty tier.
They literally like were the creation of their division rival in the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
The 0-16 year is a line for itself. The 1-5, like the Hugh Jackson era, the Johnny Manziel pick.
Oh my God.
The Trent Richardson trade. Or did they pick him? I can't remember.
They drafted Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson actually had 1,000 yards rushing his rookie year. So when they traded him to the Colts, and I was like, "What the hell are they doing? Why are they trading Trent Richardson?"
So that was a good thing for them.
Jim Brown. It was so crazy. Jim Brown he trashed Trent Richardson. I was like, "Wow, why is he talking bad about Trent Richardson?" Then he went to the Colts, and then my man went on a decline. They saw something that us pedestrians don't see or whatever, and
worst ball carrier vision I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson contract.
God.
Do we need to keep?
We don't have to keep going. Let's keep this thing moving.
Shout out to the Browns fans who still show up every week.
Yeah.
The Cowboys. Sorry, they're a great franchise. Nobody wants to talk about it, but they are.
Damn, I was thinking good franchise, but we could go great because they're our quote unquote America's team. So
you don't get America's team by being bad.
You know? You're right.
But
see, that's the thing. That's what makes it so. That's what makes it so tricky.
In the franchise's history, most of the time they stay out of trouble.
When you argue with Cowboys fans, they're going back to the '90s, and you have Cowboy fans who weren't even alive then. Like, we got 3 champions. You wasn't even alive to even enjoy those championships. But somehow, well, I will say you will agree with me. They have the most bandwagon fan base. The Cowboys.
They're the most casual fans. Yes.
Oh, absolutely, but we can put them in great just for the sake of.
There's a reason why they have the most casual fans and you don't.
But
you know what I mean?
For sure. But every team, every league, or every sport has it. You have baseball. I mean, I don't even have to name it. Baseball, basketball,
Yankees,
basketball. There you go. And I'm sure you know someone who's a Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees fan.
I know Lakers, Yankees, Colts fan.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
And he defends the Cowboys nonstop. So he used to come on this podcast a lot, but he doesn't come around here no more. I must have pissed him off or something. You know me, I'm brash.
Right.
The Denver Broncos. I feel good.
Oh wow, I was thinking solid.
The last 10 years have been very iffy. The post-Peyton Manning transition has been iffy, but they did have the Peyton Manning years. They were a consistent playoff threat with Mike Shanahan before that, the John Elway years, the Orange Crush defense. I feel like there's a lot of good to be had. I know they only got like one Super Bowl at Elway, right?
I thought they got two.
Maybe
it's one. You might be right. It might be one.
I've lost my touch on a lot of football history.
That was
I had
98.
when I was a kid.
That was 98 when they beat the Falcons, right?
He won 3.
He won 3?
Apparently, he won 3.
Oh, I felt like it was more than one.
2 as a player, 1 as an executive. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
well, then I was right too.
Super Bowl 50 as the executive, I think, and then the 2 he won as a player. So yeah, you were right. So 2 Super Bowls, obviously, can't really argue with that, and then the one with Peyton. You have the weird stuff with the Tebow year, and then obviously what's happened since Peyton has left. But overall, I don't think that you can say too much bad about the Broncos. What would be your case for solid? Unless I'm just swaying you on all these, and this is just my tier.
I really don't have a lot to go off of. I mean, I look at these teams and I'm like, I will place them there. But when you put out the facts, I guess it make more sense. Because again, I was thinking about solid just based off of how I felt about them. But I mean, I guess yeah, good franchises.
So that's the trick with this exercise. Try not to look at them as they are today. Try to look at them in the grand scheme of the NFL, going back 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 years. So with
that being said, if we're doing the Detroit Lions, because that's the next team, I'm putting them as probably a bad franchise.
Listen, I mean, I caught my mistake when I first made this tier a couple of days ago. I had the Lions too high. I had them in solid. And obviously that's a mistake. They've ended 2 Hall of Fame careers prematurely with Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. They didn't win at all with Matthew Stafford. They hired Matt Patricia to be their head coach.
Oh my God, that was a disaster.
Jim Caldwell got unceremoniously axed after having the team in a pretty solid place before Patricia came in. And obviously 0-16, they were the first team to do that. Largely irrelevant throughout NFL history.
Oh shit, I forgot all about that.
What?
But them going 0-16. But do you think they ended Calvin Johnson's career, or he wanted to save? Because Calvin Johnson, when he spoke out about retiring, he said he want to preserve his body.
If Calvin Johnson still had something to play for, I firmly believe he'd be playing. He'd be playing for that. Not now. It's a little late for that, but he'd have played another 5, 6, 7 years.
Right. I feel like now where Detroit stands, now they're a winning team, the best record since I don't even know in the history book or whatever. So of course you're gonna have a lot of fans coming out, like repping Detroit or whatever. But before then, Detroit has been one of the worst teams for a long time or whatever. So and I honestly, a lot of their fans, I don't know. It's hard for me. I have to go bad franchise.
You're annoying. I'll say it if you won't, John. You're too nice of a guy. Lions fans are annoying. They get hot for 2 seconds. They don't know how to act.
Yeah, they really don't.
So if you made this tier pre-2007, you have to say poverty. Stafford got
for sure.
Stafford got them
absolutely.
a tier up. And
absolutely.
Now they're a tier above that with bad because now they're a Super Bowl threat. And if they get it, don't let them get it.
Oh my God, don't let them get it.
So I'll put them in bad. They'll be at the back of bad. They're like on the border here and here.
Okay.
The Green Bay Packers. Gotta say
I'm
great.
going great. Yeah, you gotta go great.
Five. First one. We agree on
first
the
one.
First try.
Yeah, that was a great franchise. I mean, when you think about like the startup of football and Vince Lombardi, I mean, you just think about Green Bay, how historical Green Bay is, and obviously, the championships that they had. So, and their fan base is. Their fan base is huge for them to be in such a small market as well. So
that's an example of what Jacksonville can look at. Hey, Green Bay doesn't have anything going on for it.
Nothing. But a lot of players like to play at Green Bay. So definitely got to go great.
Publicly owned franchise.
Yeah.
They've had 3 legendary quarterbacks basically in a row with Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. And Jordan Love might be next. Plenty of Super Bowls. They call it Title Town for a reason. although they haven't won it in 15 years now. I feel really good about putting them in great. They're one of the greatest franchises.
For sure.
The Houston Texans. So I think I had them in solid at first, and then I was talked down to bad. Because they're still super young, obviously. Came in 2002, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
David Carr obviously got his head taken off. They've been when they hired Bill O'Brien in 2013, they were consistently in the playoffs like every single year. And then they fired him after they gave him too much power. He traded away DeAndre Hopkins. After that, they went to the playoffs again, and they were at least in the dance. They haven't made the conference championship yet. That's a knock. But they're still a super young franchise. They have CJ Stroud now and Nico Collins, who look to be pretty good players. Derek Stingley, who is awesome to say the least. JJ Watt's a Hall of Famer. Andre Johnson's a Hall of Famer. I thought I had a good case for solid, but they haven't achieved enough for me to really give them that, and I admit my mistake. I'm a grown man. I can admit my mistake. I'll put them in bad.
Yeah, I was thinking bad as well. I mean, they're not far from solid. You brought up a lot of valid points as far as, they've been to the play, but they don't get out the first round.
Man, that group chat's gonna tell them that you were too easy on me.
So last year they got to the divisional because they beat the Colts in the wild. No, who did they beat in the playoffs last year?
Stand by. They went and played the Ravens, but I can't remember who they played.
I'm tripping. They beat the Colts to get into the playoffs, right? Because we lost, and I got to look at
playoff history. Hold on, I got it.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah. All right. Cool.
They beat the Browns. They beat the Joe Flacco Browns.
Oh, okay.
Then they lost to the Ravens 34-10.
So, I mean, honestly, even looking at the Texans really didn't have the season that everyone thought they were. I know we're not basing it just based. Yeah, for sure. And we're not basing it off just this season, but I feel like they're going to go back on the decline because Stroud hit a wall. He could bounce back off of it. But I think overall, I mean, the AFC South has been probably, we talk about poverty franchise, we talk about poverty divisions. Yeah. You're going to probably look at the AFC South or whatever.
You're not going to have a team above. What other teams we got left in the South? We have the one.
We have the Colts.
Just the Colts. Okay.
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to be above bad.
I mean, like you said, we got some first time ballot Hall of Famers with JJ Watt and Andre Johnson coming out of Houston. But other than that, like when you think about their playoffs, like they don't really do much in the playoffs.
They usually get one win, and cap out of the divisional round.
And then let's just talk about their fan base. What is the Texans fan base known for? Like a lot of fan bases have like something that they're known for. If it's a chant or if it's like Bills Mafia jumping on, you can't really think about the Texans.
No, Texans fans are pretty quiet. Yeah,
they're pretty quiet. I mean, they do the horns for Houston, but other than that, when you think about Texas fans, you think about Dallas, honestly. So
no, Houston's definitely a little brother city.
For sure. I mean, they have a big fan base, but it's not really known. And again, you can't base that off the team alone. But I just don't have them at a good franchise, a solid franchise yet.
Have you ever been to Houston?
Yes, I've been to Houston.
Any thoughts on that city?
What's that?
Any thoughts on that city?
Oh, Houston is a great city. Like when you talk about like. It definitely accommodates to their fan in regards to nightlife, and you got the Rockets there and the Astros, so it's a lot to do. So that's definitely not the question, but it's just so crazy. That franchise came in 2002, but it's still, I feel like they still haven't found their way because you see how happy Houston was with CJ Stroud, just the season that he had, just like we have our quarterback, and you could just see like it brought something to the city, and then like this season is kind of like interesting enough, Bryce Young's stats for the last 10 games was
as soon as he came back from the bench, he looked like,
right, because last year everyone was like, we made the right decision. We got CJ Stroud. Bryce Young sucks. And then this season, it just kind of went like towards the end. Bryce Young is looking a little bit. So I guess from a Houston aspect, Is CJ Stroud, is he their franchise? Is he their guy?
Still early to tell. Jury's out.
It's early. It's too early. But again, we can't base that off the team in whole, obviously. But I'm going with a bad franchise. People may think
And
otherwise.
obviously, we could talk about some of the things like the McNair family, with a lot of their past racism, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Inmates running the prison thing, and obviously Jack Easterby, how weird he was,
Oh
and
sure.
the Bill O'Brien thing where they traded DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of chips. But I'm higher on the Texans than most people, but I'll admit my mistake. I was a little too early to the gun there. They're bad. The Colts. Speaking of quarterbacks from last year's class, how you feel about Anthony Richardson? I think he sucks.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. I have my doubts about Anthony Richardson, and I think the worst case scenario for Anthony Richardson was this season. So he wasn't as injured as his rookie year where he was out for the whole season. But the owner's like, yeah, we want him to play. It was times that season. Why is Flacco not starting? Why is he not starting? Why are they still going with Anthony Richardson? And he showed you who he was, because there was doubts
Flacco
coming into
took
the
a step
draft.
back a little bit too.
Yeah, what's that?
And then Flacco took a step back too.
Exactly. So,
and then obviously, but Flacco wasn't tapping out of games. So,
right, and that was crazy.
And like, I get you had Peyton Manning, and then before that in Baltimore, you had the Johnny Unitas years. Outside of those, you've been a bag of suck.
Yeah,
the Patriots owned you before you got that one Super Bowl. You ruined Andrew Luck's career.
You booed the man when he said he was retiring because he was dying on the field, and they booed him.
Seriously, yep. Jim Irsay, one of the worst owners in football.
Oh my God!
And now he can barely walk. Like, you see him, and he's out there on his walker and his mobile chair. Like, I don't think he's got it all there upstairs anymore.
I saw him smoking a cigarette at one of the Jaguar games. Like, he was like on one of the concourse smoking a cigarette. It was the funniest thing ever. But yeah,
you have a conversation with him?
Nah, we seen him from a distance. Like, that is the Colts owner,
looking like a zombie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're bad. They're just bad.
I was gonna say I don't know where to go with this one. So you said bad. Okay.
They have the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, obviously. That counts.
Oh, for sure.
They had the years with Andrew Luck where they won. That counts. The Johnny Unitas years, that certainly counts if we're looking at a grand scheme of things. But you have three quarterbacks. You only got one Super Bowl. Actually, I don't know if Johnny Unitas won it. Yeah, Johnny Unitas.
Hey, but I mean, one thing you can't take away from the Colts, they've had a lot of great players, a lot of great Hall of Famers. I mean, obviously,
Johnny Unitas got them to one Super Bowl,
one
5,
Super Bowl,
and he won 3 NFL championships, which I'm not counting. Like, you gotta talk to me post NFL merger, post NFL AFL merger, 1968. That's where we're going from.
Let's talk about some of the Hall of Famers. They have a plethora of Hall of Famers.
Peyton Manning,
Edgerrin James. You said did you say Marvin Harrison?
No, I did not.
Marvin Harrison.
Tony Dungy.
You said Dallas Clark, right?
Yep, Tony Dungy.
Tony Dungy. I had the opportunity to meet Tony Dungy. Very nice guy.
Seems like it.
We haven't even gone defense yet.
I said Dwight Freeney.
Dwight Freeney. Bob Sanders, not a Hall of Famer, but he definitely had the potential because he was lights out at one point. But they produced a lot of great players. But again, we talk about the overall franchise and semi-winning culture. But
I'd have them the highest out of all the AFC South teams, but I can't put them in solid. I just can't do it.
Sheesh, none of the AFC South made it over a bad franchise.
And the NFC South, I mean, the Falcons will probably be the highest of them. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's bad. Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going good franchise.
I'm between good and great for sure. This Patrick Mahomes dynasty, by the end of it, will have them in great, assuming everything goes well. The Hunt family, pretty consistent, steady owners. They don't get in trouble often. Obviously, you had some down years, like the pre-Alex Smith years with Matt Castle. But as soon as I got Andy Reid, it's just like take off. Here we go.
Hall of Fame
And
coach.
maybe the
But
best coach of all time.
oh, for sure. So 10 years ago. So I think the question that you have to ask yourself when you think about this tier, would you have them as a great franchise 10 years ago?
10 years ago, at the birth of the Alex Smith era, no, probably not.
Probably not.
They'd probably be Falcons solid.
They're right there. I mean, obviously, if you have a franchise that's winning back-to-back Super Bowls, which we don't see often, you're going to have a lot of bandwagon fans and a lot of people jumping on the Chiefs bandwagon. But they're close to great because of course they're winning.
They're as close as close can get, aren't they?
They a coach like Andy Reid that's brought that winning culture to Kansas City for however many years he's been there, like their fan base has definitely grown over the years or whatever. So they're close to great. For me, they're close to great. I personally wouldn't put them great there, but I know a lot of people
there
would
were a lot of mediocre years for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
A lot of bad ones, like stuff we can't ignore. But you hardly see them in trouble. You don't see any off the field antics with the whole family.
Not really.
So they're firmly in good, and they'd be solid if they didn't have Patrick Mahomes in this era. Like I don't think anybody would talk about them like they're an embarrassment, like we've done with the Chargers over the years.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the Chargers,
go on.
I feel between bad and really bad.
I was honestly thinking really bad.
Jim Harbaugh definitely has a chance to change things. They have always made the playoffs in the first year of his tenure. They were obviously up and down with Phil Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson. They might have shoved Drew Brees out the door a little too early.
Oh my God.
The Dan Fouts era, you didn't get enough out of that, like as you probably wanted to back in the 80s. Think of Dean Spanos as a horrible owner. I'll just come out and say that. Moving the team out of San Diego was a stupid decision. Every game you play, it's an away game at home.
Yeah. I really don't got a lot to say about the Chargers. Like soon as I seen them, oh my God, one of the biggest busts of all time. But soon as I looked at the Chargers, the first thing I came to was really bad franchise. I feel like they have been that team where you like, oh, they might do something this year, but they don't. It's always seemed like that for me with the Chargers.
It's a lot of heartbreak. It's a lot of Vikings-esque heartbreak.
Oh, for sure.
But at least with the Vikings, they're super, super, super steady.
Yes.
You never look at them like, holy crap, they're picking 8th. Like the Chargers have had that in the past, and they've whiffed on a lot of those big picks and a lot of those big decisions.
Right.
So I feel really bad. I think they're going to move up to bad really quickly because I think Jim Harbaugh is such an excellent coach.
Great coach.
As far as the Rams, I'm feeling good.
You're feeling good?
I feel good. I feel really good.
Oh, good. Let's talk about it.
All right. We spoke extensively on the Rams earlier with their move to St. Louis. I think we came to the conclusion that this wasn't like because the team was bad. It was because Kroenke's an asshole and he didn't want to pay for a new stadium in St. Louis, so we boned and moved him to LA, and it's worked out. And then they had the greatest show on turf before that. And in LA in the early years in the 80s, I believe they were a good team. Eric Dickerson. I don't see a reason to move them in solid. They have a handful of Super Bowl wins.
You brought up some valid points. I can't argue with that. And honestly, but
you're going to get killed for agreeing with me so much. You know that?
But listen, when we moved to the Rams, I did not think about the St. Louis. I just thought about LA, and my brain can even go back to like the when they were previously in LA as well. So, I mean, when you talk about the St. Louis and then also just the Eric Dickerson era, yes, I could see why you would go good. So I'm not gonna argue with that.
Would you be shocked if I said I didn't really take any notes preparing for this tier? Like I'm just kind of
winging it.
Yeah, and I'm just able to recall Eric Dickerson.
Hey, listen, I got confidence in your football knowledge. I've known you for a while, so it's not a lot to debate about.
The Dolphins. This may sound like a hot take. I'm putting them in bad. And you know what? Instead, I want you to make your opinion first.
I was
State
thinking
out your opinion first. Why you would put them in somewhere different if you were.
I was thinking more of a
Why
solid
that?
franchise. Being from Miami, it's a culture thing. Being from the South, their fan base, they love the Dolphins down there, and
No, I went. That was one of the first away games I ever went to for the Patriots. I think it might have been the first. I went down to Miami in 2021. The Patriots lost. Mac Jones' rookie year. Brian
okay.
Flores was down there. It was the game Brian Flores got fired right afterwards. And Dolphins fans, nicest people ever. I'm wearing a Patriots jersey, and they're patting me on the back like, "Good luck in the playoffs. I hope you lose." But
I'm just thinking about the culture. Just again, being from Florida,
the culture, as in fan culture, or
just the
culture?
culture, the fan culture, just the Miami scenery. It accommodates so much for their fans, and then just the team within whole. Like they haven't had the greatest team over the years. I mean, you had obviously the undefeated Dolphins back in
That's
'72
why they're not really bad to me, because they have
before
the Dan Marino years in the 1972 16-0 year or
right,
14-0,
but
whatever it was.
the Dolphins have a lot of fans. I mean, I'm in Delaware. There's a lot of Dolphin fans here, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about again being from Florida. I just see how diehard their fans are, and I can't just base that off that alone. But when you think about Florida, you think about the Dolphins. When you think about Florida football, you think about the Dolphins. So I don't know. I feel I have to go with a solid franchise.
All right, and here's why I'm gonna say bad.
Okay.
Number one, Stephen Ross blatantly asked Brian Flores to tank games. Number one. Number two, they tampered with Tom Brady and Sean Payton and got busted for it. Lost draft picks.
Mm.
Number three, Tua Tagovailoa, his whole situation with Brian Flores talking shit to him and doing all that. We
Oh
went
yeah.
over that. We went over that earlier today or yesterday.
Yeah.
And just blatantly ignoring player health and just letting Tua go back there after he got concussed, like the first time and the second time and the third time. Like they're just throwing him back in games where they know he's concussed and not right. Stephen Ross is just a terrible, terrible, terrible owner. And obviously they were largely irrelevant from the Dan Marino years to when they got that spark with Mike McDaniel. I mean, they made the playoffs once with Ryan Tannehill.
Yep.
One time. Largely irrelevant after that. Bottom feeders of the division.
Ryan Tannehill didn't even play that game. He was injured, so he didn't even play.
Nat Moore then died.
Yeah, I remember that game too.
Like,
well, since you put it that way, listen, I was not a fan of Tua playing. Like, at this point, I was like, just go ahead and retire, just because.
Obviously, it's his decision as a player, but I'm
for
talking about
sure.
some of the in-game. Like, there was one the first couple times he was concussed, and the team doctors were just like, go back out there. And then the independent people were like, no, we're gonna move you back in here. The Mike McDaniel hire has kind of blown back up in their face a little.
Did you hear his thoughts on the comments when Tyreek said that he wanted to leave the team, and like he just was a loss for words, like he couldn't even articulate. He was like, well, I mean, like it was like the funniest thing
ever. He's such a
ever.
quirky dude that I love him so much, but like
I do too. He's like that nerd, but he knows his stuff. Like he knows his stuff about football or whatever. Like
he's a total film junkie, total dork.
Right. I like Mike McDaniel, but
he's not head coach material yet.
Yeah, I feel like if Mike McDaniel got fired by the Dolphins, do you think he would get picked up as a head coach somewhere else?
No, he'd probably be a coordinator. He'd get interviews, but he'd probably be a coordinator.
Yeah, I think so too. But we're talking about the overall franchise within itself. You brought up some valid points in regards to like some of the negatives about Miami, just the whole tampering thing and Brian Flores. I guess I've spoken.
It's such a loose culture down there too. Obviously, Tyreek Hill getting arrested every 2 seconds.
Yeah. I think more of the iconic part of Miami in regards to the team and what they stand for within the city of one of the biggest cities in the country.
Here's another one. Miami. How about the Richie Incognito thing in 2013 where he's bullying his teammate?
I forgot about that. So these are some of the things that you would consider bringing the franchise down. I mean, they're not a poverty franchise, but
No,
these are
certainly not.
but these are some of the things that will stop Miami from being a solid franchise.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Okay.
I'm pretty convicted in that. Like, sorry, I can't. You have the undefeated season. You have Dan Marino, who didn't win Super Bowl, by the way.
Jaguars last game against the Jaguars 63
Oh yeah,
9.
went out. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. We so that's a Florida thing. We retired Dan Marino. But anyhow, never went to the big game. Oh, no, did he go to the Super Bowl?
I think he went to one. I think he lost.
Oh, okay.
I think he went to one and lost. Dan Marino Super Bowl. I think it was one of those Giants years. They lost to the Niners in Super Bowl 19. Is that
Was
19
it?
XIX? Yeah, that's
Oh,
19.
okay.
Super Bowl 19. They lost
Okay.
to the Niners 38-16. And
Um,
that was it.
we have the
1985.
Vikings. We have the Vikings next. Before you get started, before you go in your spill, I, right off the top of the dome, I'm thinking solid, but
I'm pushing
dude,
them.
you pushing them up.
I think they have great owners. The Will family is awesome. Really sound decision makers. Like, how often do you look at the Vikings and just think, oh, that's a calamity? You look at the Falcons, they've had some calamitous moments.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of their losses have just been like you think of the Eagles NFC Championship game in 2017, 2018, where they like got blanked 38-9 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
That was a bad moment, but they did that with Case Keenum at the quarterback all year long. Like the Vikings just win in really unconventional ways. And they're usually really, really, really competitive. Like you never see them at the bottom. And sure, they haven't gotten the big one done, and that is certainly a fair criticism. But I lean good just because of how good they're run consistently year in, year out. Sound
Okay.
decision makers. They don't have a lot of decisions that just blow up in their face.
They have a huge fan base. They
A lot of
love
loyal
their
fans
team.
too.
They love their team. I don't really
Have I
have a
swayed you?
I don't I don't really have a lot to go off of Minnesota. So if you want to put them in, you want to put at a good franchise, I guess we can go there because I don't really have any talking points for Minnesota.
Your
We,
New England
we don't
Patriots.
we don't even have to talk about New England. But
There's fair
hey, listen.
criticisms that are fair to go over for sure.
Oh, for sure. So let me ask you this as
No,
a
this is your part
diehard.
where you ask me all the questions, right?
Absolutely. So let's just say the next 10 seasons,
Mhm.
mediocre, maybe losing season, similar to the Jaguars. 2035, they haven't won anything, no playoffs. Would you still consider them a great franchise?
The fact that you said mediocre and not bad,
Oh, okay,
I
bad.
would
Sorry.
say, I would
I meant
say,
bad.
I would say yes. Like if we were going like 7-10, 8-9 every year, maybe a blip of 5-12 every now and again, but it's like largely just kind of riding the line. Yeah, but if it was like what's happened the last 2 years on repeat for the next 10 years, no,
Where would you put them?
they'd be bumped down a tier. They'd be down to good.
Okay.
But they've had two calamitous seasons post Bill and Brady. And you think of the Kraft ownership and how great that's been. Before that, they were horrible. The stadium was a dumpster fire. You wouldn't be taking your kids to Patriots games in the early 90s. That's for sure. The Sullivan family before the Krafts were just horrible owners. They almost got moved to St. Louis before
Oh,
Kraft
wow.
stepped in and bought the team. Then they had issues of maybe moving to Connecticut if Massachusetts wasn't going to pay for a new stadium. But it all worked out in the end. Obviously, Kraft is still one of the best owners in the league, even at a lot of his faults. After thinking long and hard, I'm going to put them between great and good because great is obviously the argument is 6 Super Bowl championships. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, 2 of the greatest to ever do it at their position. like I told you, their record since 2012, 131 and 81. If you want to go back to 2000, I'll happily get that for you. The Patriots record the last 25 years. Since 2000, I'm willing to bet you it's insane. That's for sure.
I don't doubt it. Go ahead,
270 to 134
wow.
in the last 25 years.
Go ahead and put them at great. Listen, we don't even have to debate it. We could put them at great.
Listen, I think
You
you
get
asked
no
some fair
argument from me.
questions. Like if go down the line, if this is like what it is the last 2 years
No,
of
go
just
ahead.
calamity, yeah, for sure. But they've done so much good in this quick little 20-year window, and I don't want to ignore the things that happened pre-Kraft and post-Brady. I think that's fair, but the highs were just so high. Nobody had ever done it before. And I don't mean to sound like Donald Trump. Yeah, nobody's ever done it as good as me. But
and that was actually really good.
my Trump impression's all right. My Barrio one is pretty good too. We don't need to go into that.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I feel great.
All right.
No counter.
No counter. I was obviously I was thinking great. It's no argument for me.
The Saints, I'm gonna put in solid.
There we go. We see eye to eye. I was thinking solid.
Obviously, the success hasn't been as high as you'd want it to be, but they still have the Super Bowl. New Orleans is a top tier market for sure. In the sense of it's kind of a mid tier market, but they do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Those Saints fans are loyal as hell. They're loud.
Very loud. And
they have some
got
team management issues. I think they gave Sean Payton too much power, and then they let him walk out without cleaning his mess.
Oh, for sure.
And now obviously they're running through coaches like there's no tomorrow, trying to find the right guy. They just fired Dennis Allen, probably a little too late.
Yeah, I think they have probably one of the best case scenarios for their team. I mean, they went through the tragic events of Hurricane Katrina, where I mean the city practically got washed away, and then they ended up winning the championship. Like people were rooting for the Saints. A lot of players and fans was rooting for the Saints, and they won the championship. Maybe like 2 years after Hurricane Katrina. So that was like one of those Cinderella type of victories that you saw when they won the Super Bowl, because you wanted that for the city of New Orleans. So that was great to see. But overall franchise, I definitely look at it as a solid franchise. Their fan bases, their fan base, they love their team in New Orleans. And when you think about the city of New Orleans, it definitely accommodates to the fans. Bourbon Street, the French Quarter, all of those nice places down there in New Orleans. So I'm good with solid.
What happened down there on New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, a lot of unfortunate stuff going on this week between that on New Year's Eve and then the wildfires out in LA.
Oh,
obviously, we have one great representation for an LA franchise up there, and good. That playoff game's probably gonna get moved to Arizona.
Yeah,
first time Arizona's hosted a playoff game since 2015. But yeah, a lot of the criticisms I have for the Saints. One big one is Bountygate.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I forgot all about that. How can you forget about that?
Sean Payton had a lot of cheating scandals. I think he got suspended for an entire year for Bountygate as well. They had the Kevin James movie on Netflix about that.
Oh wow.
You didn't watch that?
No, I didn't see that.
I've heard it's horrible. But like Kevin James plays Sean Payton in a movie.
Really?
Yeah. And it's like just covering the year he was suspended for Bountygate.
I had no idea.
And they underachieved with Drew Brees. They probably should have done a lot more than they did.
You think so?
I think they underachieved one Super Bowl with Drew Brees, and that's it. One of the top 10 quarterbacks in football history.
Yeah.
This is actually a part of this. I have this debate with a lot of people. Where is Drew Brees on your all-time quarterback ranks?
He's definitely in the top 10. I really have to like dissect and look at the numbers, but for me, he's top 10.
Who you have higher, Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers?
I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna go Drew Brees over Aaron Rodgers. You got Rodgers over Drew Brees?
Comfortably.
I got to look at those numbers.
Comfortably. Listen, Drew Brees is going to have all the passing stats, but Aaron Rodgers has 5 MVPs. He dominated a much harder division. Like the NFC South is kind of a joke. Like, let's just be real. At least with and the Packers, obviously they got layups with the Bears and the Lions,
And the
but the
Vikings.
Vikings played them hard, and Rodgers was still winning
Eh.
division after division. Now, Rodgers had his playoff chokes. I'll admit it. So did Drew Brees.
How many MVPs did Drew Brees get?
0.
He got 0. He didn't get 1.
Nope.
Oh,
The one year he probably should have had it. Aaron Rodgers was an insane, 49 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 5,000 something yards. It was the greatest quarterback hit season in history.
wow! I am shocked. I thought he at least had 1. But listen, he's a 13-time Pro Bowl, 1-time All Pro. I mean, that's impressive. I think about the numbers. You made valid
Rodgers All Pros.
you made valid points in regards to Aaron Rodgers.
5-time
Four?
MVP. 5-time
5?
MVP. Right?
Sheesh.
I think it's 5. I think it's 5 MVPs. How many times was he on the All Pro team? 4-time All Pro. 10-time Pro Bowler. He was on the All 2010s team. 1-time Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers.
How many yards?
62,952. Brees has more yards, definitely. But if you look at his attempts, I bet you the attempts aren't even close. I bet you Brees has way more attempts.
Well, let me ask you this: how many touchdowns?
Rodgers 501.
501.
503. Excuse me.
So if Rodgers retires after this season, he call it quits. Drew Brees will have almost 20,000 more yards than him, but I don't know how many seasons he played.
How many attempts does Drew Brees have? Career passing attempts.
Why can't I see that? Attempts.
I can get it.
10,551.
And when you look at the average, like a 17-game average, what's it say? Like right under it. If you're on Pro Football Reference.
625.
625?
Yes.
He has 70 more average attempts on a 17-game average than Aaron Rodgers. 70.
Mm.
They call those inflated stats. So, and Drew Brees played in a dome basically his entire career. Rodgers was playing at Lambeau Field.
The frozen tundra.
Sorry, I just comfortably Aaron Rodgers.
I mean,
did I just sway you again?
No, you didn't sway me. I'm still going with Drew Brees. So if we switch players, if Drew Brees played in Green Bay, Rodgers played in New Orleans,
they might win more. New Orleans might win more.
You think so?
Yeah. Rodgers, just on a physical talent, Rodgers is the second most talented or third most talented quarterback I've ever seen.
The third most talented quarterback?
Yeah, behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Just on pure football talent. Number 4 would be Dan Marino. I didn't see Dan Marino, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you. Along because you've seen plenty of times how Aaron Rodgers has taken over games. We can't beat Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I don't even know what the record is for him playing Jacksonville, but he just takes over the game. You about to look it up?
Yeah, Jaguars. StatMuse is one of my favorite sites ever. Aaron Rodgers is 4-1 versus the Jaguars.
I see. That's what I'm saying. Even what is he 40?
Yes.
I was so pissed off. First off, we should have beat Green Bay this season.
You guys beat them in 2008.
2008. So this dude, it's no reason why a 40-year-old
David Garrard was your quarterback.
There's no reason why a 40-year-old should have an 18. Well, we couldn't even stop Joe Flacco, slow ass Joe Flacco running on us or whatever. But Aaron Rodgers was having his way with us, and Devontae Adams had 200, damn near 200 receiving yards. So Aaron Rodgers is a beast. He's obviously a first-time Hall of Famer. So that's debatable. I think that's a great argument.
Hall of Famers for sure. But
for sure.
What I'll say is a couple things. One, no GM in their right mind is taking Drew Brees over to Aaron Rodgers. It's just not happening. More talent there. The sky is the limit for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Drew Brees physically limited. He had a good arm, good accuracy, but he's physically limited. Number 2, 5 MVPs, 2 of them back to back. That's
Damn,
not
we
nothing.
got 5. Damn, I
5.
didn't even know he had that many MVPs. That's crazy.
2011, 2014, 2020, 2021. I think there's one more that I'm missing. But he won
Jeez.
2020, 2021 back to back.
Drew Brees should at least got one.
Yeah, his best year was 2011, and Aaron Rodgers just had the greatest season ever.
What was his stats that season?
2011, Aaron Rodgers, he 4,600 yards, 45 touchdowns, 6 picks.
Damn.
That's not counting the playoffs.
Damn. And that was an all-pro year for him, obviously.
4. Okay, I might have lied. Rodgers is a 4-time MVP, not 5. I thought it was 5.
Oh, okay. Still.
Pretty good.
All right, let's get back to these franchises.
I'm just letting you know, Aaron Rodgers.
I still got
I
Brees in my
had to
top
do
10.
it. That's my boy. Giants, I'm putting in good.
Yeah.
Confidently, I'm putting them in good. The Bill Parcells teams with Belichick at the DC with Lawrence Taylor and all them, really, really good teams. They obviously have the 2 Super Bowl wins against us that I don't want to stick on too much.
Ooh, I don't even know why that hurts you. You have
2011 hurts. That was the first game that I had been truly invested in. 2007, I was like 5.
This is the first time that I will probably, and it's not the first time, but I've really never really said this out loud, but I was rooting for y'all, and you were young as hell, but the year that the undefeated season, the undefeated
You wanted us to go
regular
undefeated?
season, a classmate of mine played for the Patriots as well, Jabbar Gaffney. But
Wow.
yes, I went. He's from my neighborhood. I went to school with him. He played for the Patriots. But
He was
I
pretty
wanted
good.
to see. I wanted just to say I saw an undefeated team the whole season. And
He was good. Randy
then y'all
Moss, Wes
lose to
Welker.
the Giants. That was crazy.
Yep.
That was the only time. That's the only time I rooted for the Patriots. Like I wanted the Patriots to win, and I was like, these dudes would lose to the Giants in the Super Bowl. Freaking David Tyree catching the shit on his helmet.
Gum on his helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I was like 5 when that happened. Like, and that's nothing. 2011 hurt. I was like 9.
Yeah.
That sucked. And then when we beat Seattle a couple years later, that was just like, thank God.
Right.
That was the first one for me. I was a happy little kid. But yeah, the Giants are right now they're bad. But historically, throughout the NFL's history, they're one of the top organizations. They're not great. I'm not putting them in great, but they're good. The Jets are poverty, straight up.
Why? I knew you were gonna go poverty with the Jets. Let me hear why.
Do I need to go over the events of this year? Like, that's a given.
Go ahead.
Do we need to like recap what happened to the Jets this year?
I would like a recap.
Okay. They fire Robert Saleh for no reason, just because Aaron Rodgers just wanted somebody who was just going to kiss his ass the entire time. They trade for Devontae Adams, who probably isn't going to stay there after this year. Gave up a ton of stuff for him. Getting Aaron Rodgers in the first place was a mistake. After being so disgruntled in Green Bay, and they just go all in on him. Robert Saleh goes all in on him, and they can him. They stuck by Zach Wilson for far too long. Obviously, the Rex Ryan years, you have the 2 trips to the AFC Championship game back-to-back, respect. After that, they were a calamity, to say the least. They did not have a winning culture by any means. Before that, did they do anything with Chad Pennington? They won the division one time in 2002. That was it. And before that, they didn't win a Super Bowl since Joe Namath in the 1960s. The stories about Woody Johnson this year being such a bad owner, his kid telling him not to trade for players based on Madden ratings. What else do we got on the Jets? I'm probably forgetting. There's so much with the Jets. There's so much bad.
When was their last AFC championship?
That Rex Ryan year, 2010.
And who was the quarterback?
Mark Sanchez.
Yep.
The Sanchez. Now a pretty good commentator, but
yeah.
Yeah, just you have a case for the Jets not being poverty?
Oh no, I had already had in my head for them as poverty. I just wanted to hear from you because you got all the valid points as far as
They
what makes
trip
them a poverty
on their
franchise.
dick so much. They just
Yeah,
can't get out of their own way.
yeah, they can. And
Woody Johnson is such a bad owner.
and when you talk to a lot of New York people that's from New York, New Jersey area, I mean it's predominantly more. I mean they share a stadium, but it's predominantly more
No,
Giants than there
like
are
if you
Jets.
go into the nice parts of New York, those are Giants fans. You
Yep.
go to like shitholes like Staten Island, they're Jets fans.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So are the Jets fans, Met fans, and the Giant fans Yankee fans, or how does
Most of the
that
time.
work?
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, okay.
So here's how it goes usually. Jets fans are Islanders fans, they're Mets fans, they're Nets fans, and they're Jets fans. A lot
Gotcha.
of Ets. The
Gotcha.
other side of New York, the Rangers, very, very good hockey franchise. The Knicks, historic. The Giants and the Yankees.
Yep.
Who's the big brother? Who's the little brother? You tell me.
The big brother is the Giants.
Yeah. The Eagles, I feel good. They only have one Super Bowl, but they're hardly ever calamitous. They had one bad stretch with Chip Kelly, New Hampshire legend, by the way. He grew up like 30 minutes away from where I grew up in New
I didn't
Hampshire.
know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was from that
He
area.
was a player and a coach at UNH, or just a coach, but I just graduated from UNH. There's a lot of ties there.
Hey.
I also went to Ryan Day, went to UNH as well, the
Oh
coach of
wow.
the Ohio State. He played quarterback for us
Wow.
back in the 90s, I do believe. But yeah, the Eagles, I feel good. They're hardly ever calamitous. Andy Reid had them in the playoffs every single year. Donovan McNabb, maybe the most disrespected quarterback of all time.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
The run with Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson was fun.
It was.
They obviously have the Super Bowl win.
Michael Vick should have got the MVP that year.
Which year?
The
2010?
year that Peyton Hillis got. No, I mean, I'm thinking about the Madden cover. I think Tom Brady might have got the MVP that year. I believe.
2010? Yeah, Brady did get an MVP.
I think I thought Vic should have got it that year, but anyhow,
Let me see.
one of the things I want to touch on.
Yeah, 2010, he came in second for
yeah.
Offensive Player of the Year. But in 2004, he was second for MVP as well.
Oh wow. But one of the things I want to touch on about Philadelphia, they have probably the most passionate fans. I mean, me being in the Philadelphia area, I know their fans in and out. They have the passionate fan. They will love their player, and then if he goes to another team, they will hate him. Their their fans are very passionate. So that's one thing I can say about Philadelphia that I see with their fan base. So I could put them in a great franchise, to be honest.
I wouldn't go that far because
You want to go that far?
They were losers for a little while, but I'll put them in good.
You put them in good? Okay.
Yeah, I'll put them in good.
I was thinking great, but okay, we could go
they
good.
Win another Super Bowl and they stay consistent for the next decade and being in Super Bowl contention, because most of your years they weren't really fighting for Super Bowl berths. Now they are, which is great, but they just got there. Let's settle and let's see. The Steelers, on the other hand, I'm putting in great.
Gotta put the Steelers in great,
and the Niners for that matter.
And the Niners is no argument from me. I was thinking great for both of them, and honestly, just looking at what we have left, there's no more greats.
There's a solid though.
Solid, yep.
Legion of Boom. They have a Super Bowl. They're always pretty competitive. They never suck. So
they never suck. You're right.
I feel solid about Tampa, but they had the lowest winning percentage of any professional sport franchise before they got Tom Brady.
Tampa was bad for a long time.
The Succaneers, yeah.
Yeah, they're the equivalent to the Clippers.
But I think since they got Tom Brady, and maybe a little bit before that, like since they got Mike Evans, truly, I think Mike Evans was kind of the starter for all this. They've been relatively in the mix, and then Tom Brady took them over the hump, and now they're making the playoffs every single year.
What year were you born?
2002, when they won the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's why I brought that up. So yeah, they won the Super Bowl against the Raiders. I remember that.
That was a legendary defense too. The 2002 Buccaneers.
Absolutely.
Warren Sapp. Better football player than he is a person, but
yes, Derrick Brooks.
so I feel solid, but you can convince me to put them in bad if you feel one way or the other.
My OCD is like wanting to fill up that solid.
Yeah,
That
no,
solid.
seriously, me too.
Yeah, I'll go.
If not for that, yeah.
No. We got to take them to bad because they were bad for so long. Like
Okay.
the bad outweighs the good. As much as I would like to put them as solid.
In a decade, they'll probably be moved up, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
The Titans. Oh, I feel poverty. I do.
I feel poverty as well.
The lady who runs it, horrible. I forget. I don't even know her name.
What's her name? Amy. I don't know her name.
Titans owner. Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
Drunk.
Yeah.
The daughter of Bud Adams, who used to own it. She makes a lot of emotional decisions, just throwing guys out. Trading AJ Brown for Traylon Burks was a mistake.
Oh my God.
That was an ultimate mistake. Drafting Jake Locker in the first round in 2011 was a mistake. Actually, was he a first round pick? I don't know if Jake Locker was a first round pick.
He wasn't a first. He was a first round pick because that was that same year. I think Christian Ponder came out that year too.
8th overall for Jake Locker.
He was a fail.
So Cam Newton was the best quarterback in that class, and then they just overdrafted Jake Locker and Christian Ponder.
Wow.
I think Tannehill was in that class too, or maybe the year after.
Oh wow.
I think Kaepernick was like a 4th round pick that year too.
They've made really bad decisions over the years.
They had a coach with Mike Vrabel. They did. They were winning. They had one bad year, and they threw him out.
Yeah.
And then they give Carthon, their old GM, an extension just to fire him just a couple of days ago.
That was crazy.
Poverty.
It said poverty, and I think what didn't help Vrabel's case is just the season that we went to the playoffs. That was the 2022-2023 season.
Oh, a couple of years ago. Yeah. Okay.
The Titans led this. They led the division. They were leading the division, and then they just went on a downward spiral, and then we went on a winning streak, and then we ended up taking the division. And then that next season, they didn't get any better. So Vrabel, they ended up getting them out of there, and then they got the new GM, and they just been going downhill.
Something that like every team who needs a coach this cycle loves Mike Vrabel?
He's a great coach.
Doesn't that say something about him and not the Titans?
I think he's a really good coach, and I think he's going to flourish. That's why he's getting head coach interviews, because people can see that he was a good coach, and just what he did in Tennessee. Although Tennessee didn't pan out, he did overall. I think he did a good job with Tennessee.
It would be much better if he was there and not Callahan, Carthon, and now Will Levis as the quarterback of the future.
Sheesh.
Although now they have the first overall pick, they might just go say, "Hey, Cam Ward, help us out here." I think that's gonna be Cam Ward number 1, not Shedeur.
You think Cam Ward over Shedeur?
Yeah.
I
do. I just feel like Cam Ward's got more plus traits. Shedeur just kind of feels like he's just gonna fall into like this. Oh, he could be good. He's not really. He's gonna be like Geno Smith with like a higher media personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Didn't Cam Ward didn't he like quit a game like recently? Like he stopped playing or something? He broke a record or something?
Yeah, he broke a record for the Canes, and then they pulled him out. Because he was going to the draft. It was a bowl game. A lot of players do that. I'm not holding that against him. And the Commanders, name change. Dan Snyder was a horrible owner, maybe the worst owner of all time. Obviously, the big sexual harassment allegations that forced him to sell the team. They're seeming to turn a corner with this new ownership group. Jaden Daniels is awesome.
He is.
I feel more really bad than poverty, because they do have some history of being a decent franchise with Kirk Cousins. They made the playoffs a couple times. They made the playoffs a couple times with Taylor Heineke. Like, I don't know if they're poverty, but if you want to tell me that they're poverty, I'll take it. But I'm leaning more really bad than poverty.
I can go really bad, but now that I look at this, you might not agree with me. I kind of.
You want to move somebody we already put?
No, we can keep it. We can keep it as it is.
But let's hash it out.
I mean, honestly, I'm looking at the Colts. I'm looking at the Colts as
You want to move them
as
up?
to solid.
Why?
I don't know. It's just it's I don't know. It's bothering me to see them as a bad franchise, but I don't really have any talking points. So just we can keep it where it's at. I don't have the talking points. We'll talk offline once I really think about it. But we can leave it where it's at right now.
Dude, you're gonna get like roasted in the group chat for just not pushing back on me at all.
You know who's going to stand up for me.
I doubt he watches the whole thing. Give me a
Yeah,
break.
yeah, yeah. We've
But
been talking for a while.
Commanders poverty are really bad. I'll let you make the call.
I'll go really bad.
All right, really bad it is. Those are your tiers, everybody. John, feel free to take a picture or screenshot it, and
Yeah, we got screenshot that.
yeah, those are your tiers for poverty franchises. The only great franchises we have are the Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, New England Patriots, Pittsburgh Steelers, and San Francisco 49ers. Those are your cream of the crop.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so there's that. All right.
Alrighty.
Let's talk about these playoffs real quick and then get us out of here, shall we?
All right.
Stop sharing. The NFL playoffs have begun. Let's go through each of these wildcard games, give our quick little thoughts, and then at the end we'll pick who we think is going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to be there, who's going to win it. Yeah.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Chargers are headed to Houston to take on the Texans on Saturday at 4:30. The Chargers are 3-point favorites. Who do you like and why?
I like the Chargers. I just don't see the Texans beating the Chargers. I think they're starting to pick it up at the right time. Their offense is explosive. Harbaugh is doing a really good job. Justin Herbert seems like he still hasn't found his niche in the playoffs yet. I think this will be the game that he gets over the hump. I don't believe in the Texans right now. We watched the Texans kind of like just going a downward spiral towards the end of the season. I like the Chargers.
For all the reasons you said, I'm right there with you. I'm really high on the Chargers. I think they can make a run. If they end up playing the Chiefs, in Arrowhead, I think that's one of two teams who can really give the Chiefs a run for their money. It's them and the Bills.
Okay.
So on Saturday evening, we have the Ravens playing host to the Steelers. The Ravens are 9.5-point favorites. I like the Ravens to win, but I'm going to take the Steelers to cover. I feel like 9.5 points in a playoff game is a lot.
Absolutely, it's a division rival. I feel like the game will be a little closer than 9.5. I got the Ravens winning that, but the 9.5. Nah,
The
I don't.
Steelers' offense is just like sputtering to the finish here, and I understand.
Right,
But the Steelers' defense more often than not gives Lamar Jackson fits.
right.
And you got to assume that last game was more of a fluke, and they'll be able to, adjust to what they've always been doing with Lamar and containing him. But again, I don't like the Steelers' offense enough to win, but I like them to keep it close.
Yeah, I like that. I like that being a close game, but I agree. I got the Ravens pulling it out.
Another big spread: the Buffalo Bills on Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. The Bills play host to the Broncos. The Bills are 8.5-point favorites at home. I'm not going to argue the number here. I find a hard time convincing myself that the Broncos are going to keep this close.
The Bills scare me though. Like the games that you think the Bills are going to like blow someone out, they don't do it. Just even against the Patriots, although they came back and won that game, it's like what the hell is going on?
No,
And they end up
it
pulling it
was
out.
way too close for comfort. But I
Yeah.
do say for them, they were coming off of two really high-powered, really intense games against the Lions
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
the Rams, where they had to score 40 points. And the Patriots were able to keep it physical and keep it close. They obviously got to rest starters since then. They rested their starters against us in week 18 and let us win that game. I really wish they didn't, but yeah, the Bills are going to be rested, essentially. They're going to have their starters all rest regularly. They essentially had their bye week last week. So
I actually got this one being a shootout. I think it's going to be a shootout. I like Knicks. I think he's really comfortable. Had a great season. I see this being a high scoring game.
who would you give Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix or Brock Bowers? I say Brock Bowers, but it's a quarterback league, so if you may pick between the two quarterbacks, it's
Ah,
close, but
man,
Nick's was
Knicks.
really impressive.
That's a hard one for me. I don't know. Maybe Daniels, but Knicks is having a hell
Daniels
of
is
a
going to
season
win
as
it.
well.
Like, he's the odds-on favorite, no doubt, but I feel like there should be more of a conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it should as well. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one. This has been an impressive rookie class.
No, it seems like all quarterbacks have hit. I think Penix is going to be pretty good. And we'll just see on JJ McCarthy,
Yep.
who I kind of hope sucks because he just kind of seems like a douche. When you look at him, he just looks like that kind of guy. But yeah, do you like the Bills at 8.5?
No, I don't.
I do. But
You like the Bills at 8.5?
I find it hard to believe that they're going to keep it competitive.
I don't know. Peyton has that. I don't want to say experience, but this is a tricky one for me. So honestly, I'm a little clueless. I really don't know.
Yeah, way to ride the fence there.
Yeah.
The Eagles are 4.5-point favorites against the Packers at home Sunday at 4:30. I got the Eagles by a lot more than 4.5.
For sure. I got the Eagles covering. I think they'll pull it off. And I'm a little concerned with Jordan Love. He had like a hand injury. I don't think he's going to be at full capacity. I still think he obviously is there to start the game off. But I know that was like a lingering injury that he have. But I got the Eagles pulling it off. Hurts will be back. I think he should be back at full capacity or whatever. So yeah, I got Eagles winning that.
The Buccaneers on Sunday night, they play host to the Commanders. The Bucs are 3-point favorites. Close.
This one was a little tricky for me. It was a little tricky for me because the Bucs are kind of up and down for me. But I got I'm gonna go off the experience. I think Baker. I think this is where it's Baker Mayfield time to shine. I think it's his opportunity to really solidify his name. People counted out Baker for a long time, and he showed you why he got his contract. And I think this is his time to shine. I got the Bucs covering the spread. I got them beating Commanders.
I'm with you. I think Baker shines best when the expectations are low.
Yep.
And like he just wants to prove people wrong. He needs that chip on his shoulder. When he doesn't, like he did at the end in Cleveland, it was a train wreck.
Right.
So, and I think the Commanders, they're just kind of happy to be here. They're a little outmatched. So I think the Buccaneers rise to the top here, and they'll move on, and they'll probably play Detroit next week. I think that's how it goes. Or right, because they're like the 3 seed, right? I don't know. If we had the Eagles winning and they're the 2 seed, yeah. So that they'd go play they go play whoever wins. No, the Eagles would go play Detroit, and then they'd play the winner of this game. God. The Vikings are supposed to be traveling to LA. I don't think that game's going to happen in LA with those wildfires. I think they're going to play it in Arizona, like they said that their contingency plan was. So I think they're going to be playing this in Arizona. So essentially a neutral site. And I've been told that Minnesota is represented well in Arizona. So
wow.
Vikings versus Rams in State Farm Stadium in Phoenix. The Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. The change of scenery helps for sure. Like this is going to be essentially a Vikings home game. Without the big skull chance. They play in a dome for sure. But I don't know. After watching Sam Darnold kind of revert back to what he was before he got to Minnesota on Sunday night against the Lions last week, I have a hard time putting faith in him to win a playoff game against the Rams, who are just such a well-run organization. I'm taking the Rams.
You're taking the Rams. Wow. I actually wow. I have the Vikings over the Rams. I feel like I kind of felt like Darnold will get it back together. That's an interesting take. I think and you made a valid point for us. And I forgot they may not be playing in LA or whatever. They'll be playing Arizona. So I think the Vikings. I think they'll do good playing in the dome. But I don't know. I got the Vikings pulling it off. I feel like they'll get their mojo back.
I mean, if you should be taking the Vikings if you just think last week was just kind of an off game for Darnold. He's going to get right back, and that team will be fine. I'm just super scared of that. I I don't know how much I trust Darnold to get it right back in a playoff game atmosphere with everything on the line. When everything was on the line last week and he crapped himself.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly. And the interesting thing about
Not that Goff was
Darnold,
good either, but we're not talking about the Lions. We're talking about
right,
the Bengals.
right. And the craziest thing, do you know where Darnold's worst game was this season?
Against you?
Against us. He threw 3 interceptions against the worst defense in the league. Well, one of the worst. I think we like 31.
It was
But
me. It was us and it was you.
yeah, that
The
was
worst
the
defense.
craziest. That was the craziest thing. But I guess my concern, if I'm a Vikings fan, the Rams offense is really starting to pick up. So I think Vikings should be concerned with just how their offense is picked up towards the end of the season. But I think it's going to be a really competitive game.
Oh, I don't think it'll be competitive, but it's really hard to trust Darnold coming off of that.
So the game is going to be based off of Darnold's play.
Yes, as it largely is the quarterback play in the league. Like the best quarterback usually wins.
I got the Vikings by a field goal.
And that would be the Vikings minus 2.5. They'd cover the spread.
I got them covering.
Or I don't know the gambling lingo as well as I want to, but all right. And close it off here. Super Bowl. Who do you got in it and who's going to win? Big picture.
I got the Chiefs winning it again. Got the Chiefs winning again. I just feel like
that's a hot take, but it's not.
I want to say it's a hot take, but I just
really
don't
not.
see them losing.
They're so well coached. They have the second greatest quarterback ever, on track to be the best ever. Travis Kelce, he's still liable to play his balls off in a big game, especially off 2 weeks rest. That defense, incredible. Steve Spagnuolo's already getting job interviews to be the head coach again. I don't think he should, but
we're interviewing him this weekend.
Don't hire him. Like, he's such a bad head coach.
Yeah,
Josh McDaniels' defense.
He didn't pan out as a good head coach, but I feel the same.
That was the draft crush I had in 2022 or 23. I think it was 22. Love Trent McDuffie. He's an AP All-Pro corner. Chris Jones on the D-line. That offense isn't as potent as it used to be, but that team is still just damn good.
Yeah, I agree with the offense, but even they find ways to win, and that's what
good teams do.
That's what winning, right? That's what good teams do. That winning culture, they know how to win, and then when it's time to play under pressure,
they have the same rabbit's foot shoved up their ass that we did for 20 years.
Yeah. I got the Chiefs winning it all against
you.
I think Detroit. I think Detroit will make it to the big game.
For me, Detroit really sealed that they were going to the Super Bowl when they won last week.
Yeah.
Like, having the week off to get a lot of your starters back from injury, having everything go through Ford Field. That place sounds like a jet engine when you go in there. Your offense is still high potent, high caliber. Goff has gotten to the Super Bowl before. He didn't win it, but he got there. I think the Lions are the cream of the crop in the NFC for sure.
For sure. And they got Montgomery back too.
And yeah, Sonic and Knuckles back together.
Yep.
In the AFC, it's hard to disagree with your Chiefs take. But for the sake of being different, I think that if any team can give them the run for their money, it is the Buffalo Bills. The team that handed them they're one of their only losses of the year. And the other loss being to Bo Nix, and they had backups in that game.
Can't count Buffalo out. So I definitely agree with you on that as well.
Josh Allen is the MVP this year. I truly believe that.
Over Lamar?
Yes. I think it's Lamar's year. I mean, not Lamar's. I think it's Allen's year. I think the MVP, it doesn't always go to the best player. It doesn't always factor in the stats. It doesn't always factor. Like, a lot of it is just feel. And you can say that Lamar is having a better season. But right now, is there a player in the NFL that is more valuable to his team than Josh Allen?
Hey, listen, no argument for me. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because even when we said earlier, the Bills in the beginning of the season, everybody thought the Bills was going to be trash because they lost.
This was a retooling year for them, yeah.
Exactly. You didn't think they were going to be where they're at right now, but that goes from a great leader, a great player. I'm with you with Josh Allen getting the MVP.
No, it just feels like his year. That's the narrative. That's the build. Everything is, can Josh Allen go and get this win? And at the same time, no team has more pressure on them to win the Super Bowl than the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
If they puke on themselves in the first 2 rounds, they will not be hearing the end of it. There's nobody with more pressure to go get a Super Bowl win than Lamar Jackson.
Oh, for sure.
There's no excuses now. Your receiver's playing well. You have Derrick Henry. You have a top-end defense now. They didn't start off that way this year, but they have a defense that is playing well now. They have a great coach in John Harbaugh. This is the year to get it done. The Chiefs are as vulnerable as they've ever been. So many 1 possession games.
The narrative is Lamar. He doesn't come through in the big game. So
and he hasn't. He's one of the worst playoff quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, he might not have the Super Bowl win, but his playoff resume is far greater than Lamar's.
For sure.
He does everything to get his team to win. And if it wasn't for 13, he left 13 seconds on the clock for Patrick Mahomes and lost. How is that his fault? So I feel like the Chiefs should be the favorite, and they should be. And I would not be shocked at all if they go and win. And if they're playing the Lions in the Super Bowl, it's hard for me to not pick it's hard for me to not pick the Chiefs. But Buffalo just feels like they got something.
Oh, yeah.
So Buffalo, Lions in the Super Bowl. I'll take Buffalo because I just think it's going to come down to which quarterback you trust more in crunch time. And it's Josh Allen, Jared Goff. Sure. It's going to come down to something similar to last year where Brock Purdy, I mean, you really trust him to go and win that Super Bowl final drive? I don't. And now he's going to get paid like $68 million a year or something stupid.
Right, Mr. Irrelevant.
I'm sure we'll talk about that in the offseason, but those are our Super Bowl predictions. I got Bills over Lions, you got Chiefs over Lions. And we went over our poverty franchise tier list. I think we had a good conversation there. And yeah, just a little over 2 hours. So a little bit longer than I'm used to. My voice is winded. John, do you have anything to say to the fine people at home before we close it off?
Not much. I look forward to the games. I want to see some great football. Although our teams are not in it, I look forward to some epic football. But other than that, thanks for having me. We gotta do this again.
Yeah, I was about to say, are you happy enough with your experience to come back on? I got plenty of time during the off season.
Absolutely, we definitely gotta do this again.
All righty. Well, John, that's John Richardson from out in Duval fan base. It's a breath of fresh air. You Patriots fans, you don't know how good you have it. I say it more than anybody else, and you'll just reinforce it. Hope you enjoyed this extra episode of the BeatCast. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow the show on Facebook. And we'll see you all next week. We'll recap the first round. Hopefully my co-host is back from illness and we can kind of wrap up the Patriots season. And John, whenever you want to come on, you let me know. We'll plan it out.
So, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend of Wild Card Weekend football.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Foxboro BeatCast. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.